Imagine discovering that one of the most brutal betrayals in ancient history was recorded not as a news report, but as a song that would be sung for thousands of years. What if I told you that this story contains a psychological pattern so powerful that modern researchers still study it today? Right now, millions of people are experiencing the exact same betrayal King David faced over 3,000 years ago, and they don't even realize they're following an ancient script. In the next few minutes, you'll uncover how Psalm 52 reveals the hidden anatomy of deception, why liars always destroy themselves, and most importantly, how recognizing these patterns can completely transform your relationships and your understanding of human nature. This isn't just about ancient history, this is about understanding the people around you right now. Today, we're diving deep into Psalm 52, one of the most psychologically intense chapters in the entire Bible. But here's what makes this psalm absolutely fascinating from a language learning perspective. It's packed with emotional vocabulary, vivid imagery, and sentence structures that will dramatically improve your English expression. The story behind this psalm reads like a thriller novel, and the English translation gives us incredible examples of how to express anger, disappointment, and ultimately hope. If you're learning English and want to understand how native speakers express complex emotions, you've just found gold. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. You're about to discover why this ancient text is more relevant to your daily life than you ever imagined. Let's start with the background story, because without it, Psalm 52 loses half its power. Picture this scene. King David is hiding in caves, running for his life from King Saul, who wants him dead. David stops at a place called Nob to get food and weapons from Ahimelech, a priest who helps him out of kindness. Sounds simple, right? But there's a witness, a man named Dog, the Edomite now. Here's where it gets dark. Instead of minding his own business, Dog runs straight to King Saul and reports everything he saw. He doesn't just report facts, he twists the story, making it sound like Ahimelech was plotting against the king. The result? Saul orders the massacre of 85 innocent priests and their families. One act of deception leads to the slaughter of an entire community. This is the betrayal that inspired David to write Psalm 52. And when you understand this context, every single word hits differently. The psalm opens with these powerful words. Why do you boast of evil, you mighty hero? Why do you boast all day long, you who are a disgrace in the eyes of God? Notice the repetition of why do you boast. This isn't just poetry, it's psychological warfare. David is exposing something crucial about deceitful people. They can't help but brag about their schemes. Modern psychology confirms this. People who manipulate others often feel compelled to share their cleverness because deep down they need validation for their actions. The phrase mighty hero is dripping with sarcasm. David is essentially saying, "Oh, you think you're so powerful? You think destroying innocent people makes you strong?" This rhetorical technique is brilliant for English learners because it shows how tone and context can completely change the meaning of words that might seem positive on the surface. David continues with vivid imagery. You who practice deceit, your tongue plots destruction. It is like a sharpened razor. You who practice deceit. The metaphor of the tongue as a sharpened razor is absolutely genius. Think about it. A razor can seem like a useful tool, but in the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon. Deceptive people often present their words as helpful or truthful, but they're actually designed to cut and wound. The repetition of "you who practice deceit" at the beginning and end of this sentence creates a literary technique called chiasmus, where the structure mirrors itself. This isn't just beautiful writing, it's showing us that deceit is a closed circle, a trap that eventually catches the deceiver themselves. When you're learning English, paying attention to these repeated phrases helps you understand emphasis and emotional intensity in the language. Here's where the song gets really interesting psychologically. You love evil rather than good, falsehood rather than speaking the truth. You love every harmful word, you deceitful tongue. David isn't just saying that Dog did something wrong, he's analyzing his entire character structure. Notice the pattern rather than showing clear choices being made. This is crucial vocabulary for English learners because it shows how to make strong comparisons and contrasts. But more than that, David is identifying something that modern psychology calls malignant narcissism, when someone doesn't just lie occasionally, but actually prefers deception to truth. They find more pleasure in causing harm than in doing good. The phrase "you love every harmful word" is particularly powerful because it suggests addiction, like someone who can't resist saying things that hurt others, even when there's no benefit to themselves. Now comes the dramatic turning point where David shifts from describing the problem to predicting the solution. Surely God will bring you down to everlasting ruin. He will snatch you up and pluck you from your tent. He will uproot you from the land of the living. This is some of the most intense imagery in the entire Bible. The verbs here are incredibly strong. Bring down, snatch up, pluck, uproot. Notice how David uses metaphors from both construction and gardening. The deceitful person will be torn down like a building and pulled up like a weed. For English learners, this shows you how to use multiple metaphor types in the same passage to create layered meaning. The phrase "land of the living" is a Hebrew expression that means more than just alive. It means belonging to the community of people who matter, who have purpose and meaning. The response of righteous people to this downfall is fascinating. The righteous will see and fear. They will laugh at you, saying, "Here now is the one who did not make God his stronghold, but trusted in his great wealth and grew strong by destroying others." This isn't cruel laughter, it's the laughter of relief and vindication. When someone has terrorized a community through manipulation and lies, there's a natural response of "finally," when they face consequences. The English here teaches us about reported speech, saying followed by quoted words. But notice the psychological insight. The righteous will see and fear first, then laugh. Why fear? Because witnessing the downfall of the wicked reminds good people how serious the consequences of evil really are. It's sobering before it becomes satisfying. The contrast David draws is incredibly sharp. The deceiver trusted in his great wealth and grew strong by destroying others, while David represents those who trust in God's unfailing love. The phrase "grew strong by destroying others" perfectly captures what we now call a zero-sum mindset, the belief that the only way to win is to make others lose. This is the mentality behind all forms of bullying, manipulation, and betrayal. David is showing us that this approach might seem to work temporarily, but it's ultimately self-destructive. The deceiver's strength is built on destruction, which means it cannot last. True strength, David suggests, comes from a completely different source. Here's where the psalm becomes deeply personal and hopeful. but I am like an olive tree flourishing in the house of God. I trust in God's unfailing love forever and ever. The metaphor of the olive tree is absolutely perfect. Olive trees are incredibly resilient. They can live for hundreds of years, survive droughts, and even grow back from their roots if they're cut down. They're also valuable, providing oil for light, food, and healing. David is saying that while the deceitful person will be uprooted, he will be like a tree that cannot be destroyed because it's planted in the right place. The phrase flourishing in the house of God suggests not just survival, but thriving in the presence of truth and love. For English learners, this shows beautiful use of present continuous tense combined with metaphorical language. The psalm concludes with David's commitment. For what you have done, I will always praise you in the presence of your faithful people, and I will hope in your name, for your name is good. Notice the time expressions here, always, and the future I will hope. David isn't just talking about a momentary feeling of relief or revenge. He's making a life commitment to remember this lesson and to share it with others. The phrase "in the presence of your faithful people" reminds us that truth-telling is a community activity. We need witnesses. We need people who can confirm reality when others try to distort it. The final words, "Your name is good," bring us full circle from the evil that the psalm began with. It's a simple but profound statement that goodness is not just an abstract concept, it has a name, a personality, a reliability that can be trusted. What makes Psalm 52 so relevant today is how perfectly it describes the dynamics we see in toxic relationships, workplace bullying, and even social media manipulation. The pattern is always the same. Someone gains temporary power through deception. They can't resist bragging about their cleverness. They become addicted to causing harm, and eventually their methods destroy them. But here's the hope. Like David, we can choose to be olive trees instead of razors. We can build our strength on love and truth instead of on tearing others down. We can remember that every dog eventually faces the consequences of their choices, while every person who chooses integrity gets to flourish for generations. The next time you encounter someone who seems to enjoy causing harm, remember Psalm 52. Remember that their story is already written, and it doesn't end well for them. But your story, if you choose the path of the olive tree, that story has a future full of hope and flourishing that no deceiver can ever take away from you.